We've had a lot of comparisons between Terence Crawford and Floyd Mayweather. We've even had the conversation to go as far as who would win in a fight between Terence and Floyd. And I truly don't know the answer to that question.
I do.
You do?
Yes.
Yeah. Who would win that fight?
Floyd.
Floyd would win that
Yes,
fight.
sir. I love you, Terence.
Always figures it out.
Yeah,
Yes. He's a chess master.
Yeah, his IQ in
But
that
the
shit
funny
is
thing
crazy.
about it is Terence has been the only other guy that people can say he always figures it out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
But you gotta have an OG somewhere.
Anybody else? Yeah.
There's an OG
Somebody got
somewhere.
to pioneer, right? Yeah, you got to.
There's an OG you can't out-figure out somewhere.
yeah,
And I just believe Floyd is that OG you can't out-figure out.
Everybody played the part.
Canelo said he's way better than Mayweather. What do you think to that?
Who, Terence?
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Of course. Of course he is.
Mayweather versus Crawford is a cold-blooded confrontation for history. Every expert holds their breath because one mistake could shatter a legacy. The arena feels surgical and unforgiving, and the first clean read may decide everything. Then the spark drops from the man who just shared a ring with Crawford. Canelo Alvarez stated, "I think Crawford is way better than Floyd." The desk falls silent. A pound-for-pound king just raised the stakes. He has felt Crawford's timing, the switch, the trap, up close, under bright lights. His words ripple through gyms and studios as trainers rework their picks and fans split in two. If he's right, Mayweather isn't facing pressure. He's walking into a puzzle built to beat him. If he's wrong, the line becomes kindling and the ring replies with cold arithmetic. Either way, the countdown tightens and one clean read will decide who truly rules the craft. As the debate heats up, another elite voice steps in, Shakur Stevenson. He lives in the lab of angles and timing, and his reading pushes the argument into sharper focus.
Pretty Boy banging with Bud would have been hard as shit. He couldn't go in there and have an all-out war, because remember, Pretty Boy was when he fought DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley. He went in there, he pressed Chop Chop out, but he kind of got hurt. Well, all due respect, I love Floyd, you know I love you, my guy. But Bud, I don't think, like, at that point in time, Pretty Boy could have gotten in the ring with Bud, because Bud was real strong. Now, Money May, like his intelligence and the smartness that he had and the boxer that he was, I think that would have been a hard fighter for Bud to be in front of. So it would have been like it's a 50-50 fight for me. I think that's a 50-50 fight.
If they gave you 500,000 and said you got to bet it today though on a fight,
I can't bet it.
And they would say they prime. They gave it to you. They said you got to bet it.
I couldn't bet it.
This ain't even your money.
I couldn't bet it.
And listen, and Bud is plus money too.
Okay,
Plus 165.
I got you. You know what I'm gonna bet? I'm gonna bet on the draw.
Gyms buzz as coaches replay tapes and try to see what he sees. They talk about feet first, who wins the step outside, who steals the lead. They note how rhythm breaks decide everything when counters are razor short. If this judgment holds, the aura around perfection starts to feel touchable. If it doesn't, the ring will answer with cold, clean math and shut the room up fast. Either way, the tension climbs because one precise read on fight night will make all the opinions look obvious or foolish. Bob Arum steps in right as the room divides and the temperature shifts. His voice carries decades of title nights and hard lessons.
I think Crawford is the better talent. I think he's a better athlete and a better boxer, and I just think he's going to win that fight. But it's a terrific fight.
He has matched legends, seen styles rise and crack, and he watches details most miss. He weighs foot placement, ring control, and who wins the second and third layers of the exchange. He points to how pressure changes when the lights hit and counters come back sharper. If his read is right, game plans across camps will need a rewrite overnight. If it's wrong, the ring will strip the talk down to timing and nerve. Either way, the stakes climb because one tactical edge can turn admiration into surrender. When the conversation flips to prime for prime, Arum doesn't blink. He treats it like a real matchup on the board. The veteran promoter sets the table with history and hard facts.
Prime for prime, who would have won, Crawford or Mayweather? Prime for prime.
Crawford.
Really? Why?
Because Crawford is a unique kind of fighter that other fighters haven't seen. And the ability that he has to switch. You know, fighters aren't used to that. They don't train for that. I just think Crawford is a very, very unique talent.
He studies adaptability, who adjusts first, who adjusts twice, and who steals the last minute. He weighs lead-hand control, triggers speed, and how rhythm breaks punish mistakes. He notes that unorthodox reads can flip a master's map and make safe zones dangerous. If his call holds, the myth of untouchable perfection gets tested under bright light. If it doesn't, the old blueprint returns and the room goes quiet. Either way, the tension tightens because greatness gets decided by inches, not posters. Oscar De La Hoya enters the debate with the calm of someone who has lived these nights. His perspective blends a champion's memory with a promoter's cold read of styles and stakes.
I have to disagree because Floyd Mayweather toyed with Canelo. Like, he literally toyed with him. He didn't get hit at all. Not one time. And Crawford, yeah, he's more of a fighter, boxer. Mayweather's more of a boxer. But I have to disagree. I think Mayweather is much more superior than Crawford. Not just because he beat me and it was a close fight, whatever, or that I stepped in the ring with Mayweather, but I really feel that technically Mayweather's a better fighter.
He measures what cameras miss, how feints freeze a fence, how footwork steals angles, and how ring IQ turns speed into safe exits. He talks about the price of chasing clean shots against a master of distance. He considers whether switch-hitting rhythm can crack layered defense, or if the blueprint holds under bright lights. If his view lands, the narrative tilts back towards surgical control over raw momentum. If it doesn't, a new order might be forming in real time. Either way, the tension climbs because one perfect adjustment can reorder everything we think we know. Terence "Bud" Crawford answers the noise himself, stepping into the debate with the calm of a man who trusts his reads. He doesn't hedge. He lays out why his skill set travels to any era.
Who do you think wins in a fight, you or Prime Floyd?
Me.
No questions?
Why would you think that I would say Floyd? You know, that's one of my favorite fighters. But yeah, nah.
Coaches lean forward because this isn't bluster. It's angles, traps, and choices under fire. He points to pace control, when to slow the room, when to punch through it, and how to steal the last 30 seconds. He talks about switching stances not for style, but to take away the jab and win the lead hand. He highlights pocket discipline, touch the body, change levels, then make you reach into counters. He argues that adjustments between rounds would tilt the chessboard, not just the exchanges. Shane Mosley steps in next, and the room pays attention. A champion with years at the top, he knows what elite speed, timing, and nerves really feel like under bright lights.
Who do you think's better out of those two, Crawford or Mayweather?
I think Crawford is better, bigger. Like he's actually he moving weight class, and I would say Crawford is a better fight all around fighter. Mayweather's really good too, though. You can knock him as well. He's very talented. It would have been a tough fight, but I think Crawford would have had the edge over Mayweather because of the long arms and because he's bigger. You know what I'm saying? And he would have kept him at bay. It would have been hard for Mayweather to counter, maybe. But Mayweather's definitely a technician. I mean, like Crawford said, Mayweather has his era, and Crawford, this is his era.
He talks about how pressure changes when a counter comes back sharper than expected. He weighs precision over power and asks who controls the first step, not just the first punch. He looks at how feints freeze a fence and how the shoulder roll survives against switch angles. He wonders if ring IQ can blunt rhythm breaks, or if the rhythm breaks make that IQ chase. If his read holds, the balance tilts toward adaptation over aura. If it doesn't, the old blueprint stands and the myth stays intact. Paulie Malignaggi enters with the tone of a craftsman who's seen hype waves come and go. He weighs fresh memories against long resumes and asks the room to slow down.
Certainly a viable conversation, but I also think it's more so Johnny come lately type of thing, where like Crawford is more fresh, so you want to give more credit. I thought Crawford boxed pretty intelligently against Canelo. He didn't go for it. He stood his ground at times, but I don't think he ever went to try to solidify the KO. I don't think it's any different than the way Mayweather fought, say, Maidana, in the rematch, or the way Mayweather fought I don't know, some of these other guys. You know, you also got to keep in mind Mayweather went to 154 for several fights, you know, and fought good punchers like Miguel Cotto, like Canelo. Crawford went to 147 and had a big part of his career at 147, looked great. At 154, he already started looking a little bit worse for wear and got tested a bit against Madrimov. And then at 68, listen, it's a great win. It's a great win. But again, I said it and I took a lot of flack. Everything I've said, mind you, everything I said about Canelo, I was right and you guys were wrong. Everything. And I'm going to gloat and you guys ain't going to eat crow. So I'm going to remind you guys of another thing I said. I said the Madrimov fight would be tougher for Crawford than would be the Canelo fight if they fought, you know? And I was right about that.
He notes how recency bias can bend judgment when a big win is still ringing in our ears. He breaks down risk selection, round management, and how finishing intent changes when power is real on the other side. He points to weight jumps and how certain divisions expose habits you could hide a level below. He compares late career adjustments to prime habits, asking which reads survive tougher tempos. If his lens holds, the conversation tilts back toward consistency against elite opposition. If not, the new footage stands taller and the debate gets even louder. He further shifted the talk to who proved more at higher weights. Paulie gets specific. He lines up names, nights, and layers of danger across divisions.
Mayweather spent some time at 154, Crawford didn't, and that's where you started seeing Mayweather have some maybe the physical issues with taking less chances. I thought there were spots where he walked a lot of guys down at 147 as well. I thought Crawford held his ground well against Canelo, but going back to what I was saying about Canelo with the Madrimov connection, Canelo was almost like a Fugazi contender at 168. He was good, but he wasn't the best 168. He wasn't that level of 168. Like if Crawford had to take a legitimate top 168 pounder, I don't think he would have went up to 168. It was Canelo. It represented money. Canelo was just hanging around from having fought lower level opposition for a couple of years, so he kind of was able to float based on the money that he brings in. But he wasn't really the hugest threat at 168 anymore. You know, he was just kind of floating because it made good business for everybody. Mayweather, I thought, took on some pretty tough 154 pounders and it was in a young Canelo and a very tough Cotto who was punching very hard from 40 to 54. You know, remember Cotto had knocked out Delvin Rodriguez at 54. He'd still done some damage at 54, and I thought
won a title at 60.
Yeah, and I thought he knocked out Martinez at 60, and I thought he gave Mayweather a pretty good fight at 54.
He looks at who took real punches at 154 and who kept their form when timing got messy. He underlines how walking opponents down demands a different engine than sharp counter nights. He threads in business reality, big names, big money, and asks whether matchmaking masked slippage. He argues that certain wins age better because the opponents kept winning after. If his frame is right, the resume under bright light favors cold discipline over momentum. If it's wrong, the recent jump in class carries the day and flips the narrative. Paulie zooms out to the all-time board, where nostalgia and tape study collide. He refuses easy answers and treats the matchup like a living argument.
I don't know. I can't say I disagree or agree. I just think that Mayweather, because it's so far away, so long ago, you know, and people sort of start to underestimate the things he did, you know. People talk about Canelo takes his repertoire from the Mayweather repertoire. No, he doesn't. Mayweather fought ex-champions. This guy's fighting guys who will never even smell, may never smell a belt in their life, and he was fighting them. So you know, Mayweather, even if you're saying, oh, he didn't fight the very best, he still fought champions and ex-champions, even at 47, even at 54. So, I don't know, man. The comparison, listen, Crawford Mayweather would have been an amazing fight in their prime. Just like you insert Ray Leonard in there, just like you insert Ray Robinson in there. What a round robin that would have been. It's never going to happen, so we're just going to debate about it.
He reminds everyone how easy it is to underrate a technician once the roar fades. He stacks champions, styles, and eras, asking whose tools translate across time. He stresses that defense, ring generalship, and opponent quality are currencies that never expire. He imagines a round robin of greats and admits the margins would be razor thin. If his caution lands, the myth of perfection regains its weight. If it doesn't, a new king of adjustments gets crowned in the minds of the faithful. Paulie Malignaggi further concluded the conversation back to where many great stories begin, the amateurs. He argues that early miles matter, and they can shape how long a fighter's prime really lasts.
The amateurs really have to start being put into context here because there's too much of a big amateur career now with a lot of guys that has shortened some of their pro careers. You have to start looking at amateur accolades. That's a great point. Floyd was an Olympic bronze medalist who probably deserved better, and Crawford lost in the amateurs to Saddam Ali in the Olympic trials.
He reminds the room that tournament pressure, short bouts, and point scoring build different habits than long pro nights. He weighs how early wear and tear can quietly shorten peak years at the top. He notes that medals and trials tell you about nerve, discipline, and how a fighter learns under strict rules. He asks which foundation translates better to 12 rounds, small gloves, and razor adjustments. If his view holds, the resume starts long before pay-per-view lights. If it doesn't, the pro tape alone decides who truly owns the edge. Chris Algieri shifts the focus to evolution, not just highlight reels. He reminds everyone that there was a different gear before the bright money era.
Yeah, I mean, Gennaro Hernandez, the way that he dismantled him, the way that he went after guys and knocked people out, people really forget about that because the majority of the era that people know is the Money Mayweather, where he became the heel, became much more of a boxer, and really was trying to goad you into trying to knock his head off rather than him trying to knock your head off like he did when he was Pretty Boy. And pretty much Jaco Corrales was the end of that. Once he went to 135, the Jose Luis Castillos of the world, those guys were super tough, more durable, and he couldn't stand and bang with those guys the same way he could at 30. But also, that's a super underrated win right there. He almost lost the first one. A lot of people think he did lose the first one, but came back immediately to fight him in the rematch and won handily. And at that point, Castillo was a monster. So there's a lot of underhanded wins or maybe overlooked wins of Floyd Mayweather early in his career, just because that champ, like you said, the recency bias of what Bud has been able to do.
He points to the ruthless early stretch when sharp offense closed shows, then the pivot into pure control as the weights climbed. He notes how a close night can be followed by a clean tactical rematch when ring IQ kicks in. He warns that some of the best wins get buried under time and noise. He asks the room to judge the full arc, speed, power, adjustments, not a single phase. If that lens holds, the resume looks deeper and the debate tightens. If it doesn't, recent fireworks will keep owning the conversation. Algieri calls it what it is, a barbershop classic with two loud sides and no easy finish. He frames the argument in eras, opponents, and what we value most.
But in terms of this overall discussion, and I say this all the time, this is an endless time, perpetual barbershop conversation where you're going to have two factions. It's going to be the Bud Crawford, who's going to be like, nah, Floyd fought all these old guys. He always boxed everybody. He was super boring. He didn't go for it. Then there's going to be the Floyd's generation that are going to go, no, absolutely. Floyd fought the better competition. He fought the most world champions. He beat the most world champions than anyone in the world. I think he fought 26 of them in a row, some crazy number. The weight classes, it wasn't the four-belt unification era, so we don't have those accolades the same way you do for Bud. There's going to be back and forth in both discussions, and I get both parties.
One camp leans on fresh tape and big stage dominance. The other leans on years of elite wins and title stacks. He brings up champions beaten, defenses made, and how belt eras change what undisputed even means. He underlines that styles and matchmaking shape how brave or boring a night can look on TV. He notes that both cases have real teeth and both can miss context. If his balance stands, the verdict rests on criteria, not volume. If it doesn't, the loudest reel wins the room. Then Algieri gets technical, foundation, and frame. He says the story starts in the amateurs and continues with who is the naturally bigger man.
And honestly, I could take stances on both if I really wanted to and say which guy is the better man, and I could probably convince most people in both directions. But one thing I think often is forgotten is the amateur careers. We always talk about Paulie, champ. We always talk about the amateurs getting overlooked when we look at how good in totality of a fighter's career is.
Great point.
Floyd had a bigger, better amateur career.
Yeah.
And if you think about this is a numbers thing, a subjective thing. Floyd debuted at 131. Bud debuted at 137 and fought a couple fights really at the junior welterweight era before area or weight class before he moved down to 135. Bud is at least a one weight class bigger man. So if you're going to go comparison head to head, like you said, champ, about 54, more impressive that Floyd fought at 54 longer because he is the smaller guy, but based on the numbers in terms of their weight classes. So those are just some extra caveats that I think people often overlook.
That's a great.
But both decisions both sides have great points.
He flags medal miles and tournament pressure as clues to pro longevity. He compares debut weights and points out who had to climb further to meet the same names. He argues that holding form at higher classes hits different when you're the smaller body. He He adds that these details don't decide the fight, but they bend the odds. If those caveats matter, durability and discipline tilt the board. If they don't, the prime-on-prime footage stays king and the debate rolls on. Now Robert Garcia weighs in, stitching achievements to the eye test. He's been in corners on both sides of greatness, and he doesn't flinch.
Look, it's tough because there's gonna be different people that think differently. Everybody thinks differently. I think Crawford has already accomplished, three division undisputed. He might go down to 160 and win that 6th division title, which will be more than what Mayweather has accomplished. But I think Mayweather was a better fighter. When he was Pretty Boy, he used to go out there and fight. He gave us great fights, like you guys were saying. There was a controversial fight. He would give him the rematch and just go out there and box and look sensational to both Castillo and Maidana. So we have to see all that. Me as a boxing coach.
He reminds the room that belts and divisions tell one story, but ring behavior tells another. He weighs long runs at the top against the Knights, where a fighter shows teeth and solves chaos. He points to a younger phase built on sharp offense, then the later phase of surgical control under pressure. He notes how immediate rematches reveal real IQ, adjust, correct, and win clean. He asks whether dominance across weight jumps beats mastery of moments that could have unraveled. He leaves the question hanging: do numbers crown the king, or does craft in the fire do it? Then Garcia puts on the coach's hat fully and opens the ledger. He judges careers by who you fought, when you fought them, and what you overcame.
I see all that, the type of fighters that he fought, the challenges that he had during his career. I think Mayweather's has a better career as a boxer.
He highlights the strength of schedule, durable punchers, awkward stylists, and champions who keep winning after you beat them. He looks for solutions under bright lights, not just safe rounds, and values consistency when the plan breaks. He studies how defense travels up divisions and how composure turns danger into data. He tallies championship nights, tight adjustments, and the nerve to win ugly or pretty as needed. If his resume stands, the resume built on solving hard puzzles holds the edge. If it doesn't, the newer run of dominance keeps the crowd on its side. Oscar De La Hoya returns to the debate with the cool precision of a man who has shared the ring and promoted the biggest nights. His take doesn't chase noise. It isolates what separates rare talents from great ones.
What makes Floyd so unique? What makes him so unique?
His pedigree. I'm good friends with his father. The best trainer I've ever had.
Wow.
By far.
That is a hell of a trainer.
Floyd Sr. is the best trainer I've ever had. He's a teacher. And that's what Floyd Jr. grew up with. He grew up with a teacher who disciplined him to be the very, very best. So I think that what makes him unique, obviously his boxing ability, but his ring generalship is what does it for me.
He points to details most viewers miss, the way small pivots erase danger and turn counters into clean exits. He talks about distance like a weapon, how inches become traps, and how feints make elite punchers hesitate. He weighs how discipline under pressure beats flash when the tempo spikes. He notes that timing, not speed, is what freezes exchanges and wins rounds quietly. He asks whether that kind of control can be taught or if it's baked into a fighter's wiring. If his read holds, the scale tips toward the craftsman who solves chaos before it starts. If it doesn't, the newer wave of dominance keeps rewriting the script. In the end, this matchup lives on tiny edges, timing, feet, and choices under fire. Some legends back raw adaptation, others swear by perfect control, and both sides have real ammo. My take, prime on prime, the fight swings on who wins the lead hand and the last 30 seconds of close rounds. If Crawford steals rhythm early and forces resets, he can tilt it his way. If Mayweather freezes the ring with distance and draws mistakes, he turns it into a quiet masterclass. Now, what do you think? Do you value spotless defense or ruthless adaptation more? Which matters most? Resume depth, weight class jumps, or the eye test when the lights are blinding? Who wins the feet first battle? And whose jab writes the story? Does switch hitting break layer defense, or does ring IQ erase those angles? Drop your answers and hot takes in the comments. Tell us where you stand and why. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tune in for more videos like this.